Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Azzahra and I want to analyze the short story, and the title is Dusk by Saki. The story tells about Norman Crosby. Norman Crosby sitting on a bench in a park in London. It is early March and dusk is setting in, and this places Crosby, who sees dusk as the hours of the defeat, when men and women who had suffered some kind of failure came out, when the evidence of their failure would not be noticed or commented upon. We are told that Crosby himself has failed, but in a more subtle admission that is never disclosed. On the bench next to him is an old gentleman who fits Crosby's category of those people who come up at dusk. As he moves on, his place is taken by a young man who sits down, uttering a loud expletive. When asked, the young man tells him that he arrived in London that afternoon to find the hotel he was going to stay in had been knocked down. He went to another hotel, then went out to buy some soap, but forgot the name and address of his new hotel. Crosby tells the young man he had done the same thing. The young man obviously expresses the hope that Crosby will lend him some money. Crosby says that the weak point of this young man's story is that he cannot produce the soap, and Crosby sees this as proof that the young man is trying to trick him. The young man walks off angrily. When Crosby himself gets up to move, he looks down and sees a block of soap that he assumes must have fallen out of the young man's pocket. Chagrined, he finds the young man, giving him the soap and also a sovereign. The young man is surprised and rushes off, and Crosby assumes he is overwhelmed by emotion. Crosby concludes that he must not be too quick to judge by circumstances. However, when he goes back to the bench, he sees the first old man who was sitting next to him, looking around the floor, around the bench. He tells Crosby he is looking for his soap. So the next is plot. Plot is the organized pattern of sequence of events that make up a story. Plot is the literary element that describes the structure of a story. It shows arrangement of events and actions within a story. Parts of a plot is there are exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. Exposition. This usually occurs at the beginning of a short story. Here the characters are introduced. We also learn about the setting of the story. Most importantly, we are introduced to the main conflict or main problem. So the exposition began when Norman Crosby sat in the park at dusk. It was some 30 minutes past 6 on an early March evening, and dusk had fallen heavily over the scene. The second is rising action. This part of the story begins to develop the conflicts. A building of interest or suspense occurs and leads to the climax. Complications arise. So the racing action began when Crosby sat on a park bench and met an old man sitting beside him. Climax. This is the turning point of the story. Usually, the main character comes face to face with a conflict. the main character will change in some way. This is the most intense moment. So, climax starts when Corsby discovers Soap under the bench. Falling action. Falling action is an action that follows the climax and ultimately leads to the resolution. So, the falling action start when Corsby returned the cake of soap to the young man. The last is resolution. The conclusion, all loose ends are tied up. Either the character defeats the problem, learns to live with the problem, or the problem defeats the character. So the resolution was shown when Corsby goes back to the bench and he met the first old man who was sitting next to him who was looking for something. Corsby asked to an old man and he said he was looking for the soap. Next is conflict. Conflict in the short story is man versus young man. Why the conflict is man versus young man? Because if Corsby not meet with the young man, he never realized that he is too clever to be judgmental. Next is point of view. Point of view in the short story is third person limited because the narrator uses words such as he, Norman Corsby, young man, and old man. Next is character name and traits. The main character is Norman Corsby. The title character is the protagonist. When Corsby found soap and think that it had the young man and return it to the young man. The other character is young man and old man. The next is setting. In the part 30 minutes past 6 on an early March evening, and dusk had fallen heavily over the scene, thus mitigated by some faint moonlight. The next is symbol. Symbol in the short story is soap, because the meaning of soap is hope and prayer. The soap symbol is sweet with the short story because it's a lesson to Norman Corsby not be not to be too clever in judging by circumstances. The next is theme. The main theme of the short story, Dusk, is the inscrutability of human nature. In this story, we have the theme of appearance, perception, guilt, deception, and self-importance. Next is figurative language. In the story, there is irony. It is ironic that the main character, who believes himself to be a good judge of character, gets deceived by the young man who shared the park bench with him. So the next is formulate opinion. I agree with the author because in a real life there are people had same condition or experience like the main character, like Norman Corsby, who to be too clever in judging by circumstances. Uh, Around us, there must be people had same condition like Corsby. And for the last is connection. In the short story, we can make connection in a real life because in this world there must be people who had same condition like Corsby, too clever in judging by circumstances. Often people have the same experience like Gorsby. I found people who had character like Gorsby. So that's all from my analyze from the short story. Uh, I'm sorry for my mistake. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.